The wind swept across the small rural town, carrying the scent of hay and rain as Daniel tightened the last bolt on his old pickup. His hands were rough, stained with grease and dirt, evidence of a man who worked hard but barely made ends meet. He glanced at the crumpled piece of paper on his dashboard, help needed with shed repair, fair pay, contact Sarah. The ad had been tacked to the community board at the grocery store, and for Daniel, it was a lifeline. He needed every dollar to keep up with rent and buy school supplies for his 8-year-old son, Ethan. He sighed, looked at his reflection in the mirror, a tired man in his mid-30s with dark hair that had started to gray around the temples, and muttered, "One more job, Danny. Just one more." The farm sat at the edge of town, surrounded by rolling green fields. The gravel crunched under his boots as he stepped out, the air cool and fresh after the morning rain. The farmhouse stood tall, white paint peeling slightly, giving it a charming but weary look. He expected to see some old farmer waiting for him, but instead, a woman came out from behind the shed, carrying a bucket of nails. She was in her early 30s, tall, with chestnut hair tied loosely, wearing faded jeans, work gloves, and a flannel shirt. Her face was flushed from work, but her eyes, hazel and calm, carried the strength of someone used to handling things alone. "You must be Daniel," she said with a faint smile. "I'm Sarah. The shed's back here. It's a mess." Daniel nodded, slightly surprised. He had assumed the ad was from a man. "Nice to meet you, ma'am. I'll take a look." She chuckled softly. "Please, no, ma'am. Just Sarah." The shed's roof was sagging, one corner nearly collapsed. It looked like it hadn't seen proper maintenance in years. Daniel walked around it, inspecting the damage carefully. "It's bad, but I can fix it. Might take 2 days if the weather holds." "2 days works fine," she replied. "I'll pay you daily. Lunch is on me too." He tried to protest. He wasn't used to charity, but she waved it off with a smile that left him momentarily speechless. "You're helping me out. It's the least I can do." He nodded, grabbed his tools, and got to work. Ethan sat in the truck with his sketchbook, doodling tractors and barns. After a while, Sarah walked over and knocked on the window. "Hey there, artist," she said kindly. Ethan smiled shyly. "You can come out if you want. I could use some company." The boy hesitated, then climbed out, holding his sketchbook tight. Sarah led him toward the barn, showing him the animals, 2 horses and a couple of goats. "You can draw them if you like," she said. While Ethan sat cross-legged on the grass, sketching a goat named Daisy, Daniel glanced up from his ladder and saw them laughing together. It made his chest tighten. It had been years since he'd seen Ethan that relaxed around someone new. By afternoon, the sun broke through the clouds. Daniel wiped sweat from his brow, muscles aching but satisfied with the progress. Sarah came over, holding 2 glasses of lemonade. "You work fast," she said, handing him one. "Gotta keep moving. If I stop, I might not start again," he said with a grin. She smiled, studying him for a moment. "You always this hard on yourself." He looked away, focusing on the half-repaired wall. "Single dad life doesn't give you much room to rest." Her expression softened. "Where's his mom?" Daniel hesitated. "She left a few years ago. Said she wasn't built for small-town life, or being a mom." Sarah's jaw tightened, a flicker of emotion in her eyes. "I'm sorry." "It's okay," he said quietly. "Ethan's my whole world now." That's enough. The rest of the day passed in comfortable silence, broken only by the sounds of hammering, birds, and Ethan's laughter. That night, Sarah watched them drive away in the dusty truck, a faint sadness tugging at her. Something about Daniel's quiet determination stayed with her long after he left. The next morning, he was back early, coffee in one hand, toolbox in the other. The sky was pink with dawn, mist curling over the fields. Sarah came out with 2 mugs. "You beat me to it," she said, handing him one. "Couldn't sleep much," he admitted. "Bills don't wait." She studied him for a moment, then nodded. "You remind me of my father. Worked sunrise to sunset, never asked for help." Daniel chuckled softly. Stubbornness runs deep in men like that. As the day went on, the shed began to take shape. Ethan played nearby with Daisy the goat while Sarah helped hold boards steady. She wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty, her nails were chipped, and her palms blistered from farm work. Daniel respected that. Around noon, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the farmhouse. A man in a suit stepped out, holding papers. Sarah's smile faded instantly. "Ms. Lawson," he greeted, his tone formal. "I brought the documents for the East Acres lease." Daniel paused, confused. "Ms. Lawson, lease." He tried not to eavesdrop, but the words hit his ears like a hammer. The man continued, "You'll need to sign before Monday to finalize the partnership with the buyers. They're impressed you're managing this much land alone." Sarah glanced nervously toward Daniel, lowering her voice. "Thank you, Robert. I'll review them later." When the man left, Daniel couldn't help but ask, "You're leasing land?" She sighed. "Yeah, just some paperwork stuff." She avoided his eyes and quickly changed the subject. By evening, the shed stood tall again, sturdy and new. Sarah ran her hand along the frame. "It's perfect," she said softly. Daniel smiled, proud but modest. "Just did what needed doing." He began packing his tools, but Sarah stopped him. "You didn't ask for your pay." He shrugged. "You can pay me tomorrow when I clean up the site." She smiled faintly. "You really are one of a kind, Daniel." That night, he and Ethan ate canned soup in their small apartment. Ethan's eyes glowed as he talked about the farm, about Sarah, about Daisy the goat. "Dad, can we live on a farm one day?" Daniel smiled tiredly. "Maybe someday, buddy." The next morning, as he returned to finish cleanup, he saw a pickup from the local paper parked outside. A young reporter was taking pictures, asking Sarah questions. He overheard the words, "largest farmland owner in the county, generational land, and modern agriculture project." He froze. Largest farmland owner. When the reporter left, he walked up slowly. "You own all this?" Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. My family's been here for generations. I took over after my father passed." The ad was just for small help, not pity. Daniel's mouth opened, then closed. "Why didn't you say something?" "Because I wanted someone who'd work with honesty, not titles," she said quietly. "People act differently when they know I own half the county. But you just fixed the shed. You didn't ask for anything." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I just needed the work. Didn't matter who posted the ad." She stepped closer. "That's what I like about you." He felt a warmth rise in his chest, but he looked away. "Guess we come from different worlds." "Maybe," she said softly, "but sometimes different worlds meet for a reason." Over the next few weeks, Sarah kept finding reasons to call Daniel back, fixing a fence, repairing the barn door, trimming trees. Ethan loved every visit, spending his time feeding the animals or painting pictures of the farm. Daniel started noticing the way Sarah's laughter came easier, how she'd light up when Ethan showed her a new drawing. In return, Sarah saw how devoted Daniel was, how he always made sure Ethan ate before he did, how he fixed everything without complaint. One afternoon, as a storm rolled in, Daniel helped her move equipment into the barn. The rain came down hard, thunder echoing over the hills. They stood there, soaked, breathing hard from running. Sarah laughed breathlessly. "Well, guess we're stuck here till it passes." Daniel smiled. "Could be worse places to be." Lightning flashed, and for a moment, they locked eyes, two lonely souls who'd carried their burdens alone for too long. "I haven't laughed like this in years," she said softly. "Me neither," he admitted. When the rain eased, she looked out at the drenched fields. "You know," she said, "you could help manage the place. I need someone who knows hard work, and who's honest. I could pay you properly. Maybe even give you and Ethan a place to stay." Daniel hesitated. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," she said firmly. "It's an offer. You've done more good here in a few weeks than most people do in a lifetime." He looked at her, searching for the catch, but there was none. Only sincerity. A few days later, Daniel and Ethan moved into the small guesthouse near the barn. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like home. Ethan had space to run, to play, to laugh. And Daniel, he finally felt peace. As the months passed, the farm thrived. Sarah and Daniel worked side by side, planting new crops, rebuilding fences, sharing meals under the open sky. The locals started noticing the change. The once lonely widow and the struggling single dad now ran the most beautiful farmland in the county together. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the fields gold, Ethan tugged on Sarah's sleeve. "Miss Sarah, can I ask something?" "Of course," she smiled. "Do you like my dad?" Sarah laughed, caught off guard. "Why do you ask?" "Because he smiles more when you're around." Her heart softened. Well, yes, I do. Later that night, she found Daniel fixing the porch light. Ethan's quite the matchmaker, she teased. Daniel smiled sheepishly. He talks too much sometimes. Maybe not enough, she said, stepping closer. You've built more than a shed here, Daniel. You've rebuilt something I thought I'd lost, a sense of hope. He looked at her, emotion heavy in his chest. I just did what anyone would do. No, she whispered, touching his hand, not everyone would. The evening breeze carried the scent of wildflowers, and for the first time in years, Daniel allowed himself to believe that life could offer second chances. By the next spring, the once lonely fields were alive again, with crops, laughter, and new beginnings. Sarah and Daniel stood side by side, watching Ethan chase butterflies near the pond. I used to think I had everything, Sarah said quietly. Land, money, power. But none of it mattered until you two showed up. Daniel smiled, his arm brushing against hers. And I thought I had nothing left. Turns out, I was just waiting for the right place to belong. The wind swept through the fields again, rustling the golden wheat like a whisper of promise. In that quiet moment, surrounded by everything they had built together, not just a shed, but a life, they both knew that what had started as a simple act of kindness had become something far greater. Love had found them in the most unexpected place, between the broken boards of an old shed and the endless acres of a farm that finally felt like home.